Are bears related to dogs? It may seem like a strange question, but it makes sense when you think about it. Dog and bears kind of look similar, and in their evolutionary history, are they related more than the average person knows? Well, science has some great answers on the history and classification of many of Earth's animal species. A bear looks like a large thick dog. Let's find out in this video. Make sure you stick till the end. The main question here is one of the evolutionary history. When we ask is something related, we are asking if two animal species share a close genetic relative of one another. Bears are not directly related to dogs, however, they do have an ancient ancestor that was shared between both species. As a second note of equal, if not greater importance, every living thing is related, as you will soon discover the common ancestor of dogs and bears that lived 62 to 32 million years ago, while both animals are mammals. Today, they have branched apart from these common ancestors. Let's discuss more in details about relationship. All questions involving if a species is related to another species hangs on evolutionary history. Essentially, what people are asking is, how far do these two species share a common ancestor? Evolutionary study allows us to look back in time through a few different methods and put pieces together, giving us a bigger picture of a genetic heritage that all living creatures share. If you go back far enough, all living things share an ancestor. The most popular one from a public view is probably the fossil evidence. They also dig up bones or fossil impressions that clearly identify themselves as some quasi-species that two same species is likely descended from. The most recent connection between two species is known as common ancestor. The second and more important way that we can look at shared evolutionary history is through the DNA. DNA evidence allows us to look back in time with relative certainty and see how closely things are related. When two species share incredibly similar DNA, it's likely they are closely related and have not too distant common ancestor. In order to understand relatedness on an evolutionary scale, it's important to understand the grouping system that humans utilize in order to make sense of things. Now, to get to the immediate question at hand, how closely related are dogs and bears? We established earlier that while they are not directly related, you may have come across other sources that say they are not closely related, yet the truth is that both animals are relatively closely related. Dogs and bears are both within the suborder of Caniformia, literally meaning dog-like carnivorians. The most specific ways of identifying an animal within these others have non-retractable claws and are generally omnivorous. These suborders split from Feliformia, cat-like carnivorians, from which lions, cats, and other felines descended from. Within the suborder Caniformia, canine family currently exists. Dog and wolf exist within the Canidae family, while bears are classified within the Orsidae family. So if you are comparing bears and dogs based on their suborders, they are closely related. However, they are fairly related in terms of their families, since they belong to different families but share the same suborder. Lastly, in terms of species, they are distantly related. In short, dogs and bears are related by suborder, but their families and species differ overall. Dogs, wolves, and bears are related by suborder and have a shared ancestor that is not that all distant. Now that we understand some of the basics of evolutionary relatedness, let's look at the most recent common ancestor that bears and dogs share. Remember, this ancestor was the precursor to both bears and dogs, as well as a few other families. The most recent common ancestor between bears and dogs is the Maicids. Maicids are extinct and lived between 62 to 32 million years ago. They were rather successful, surviving for at least 28 million years. This extinct mammal believed to have evolved into the modern basis for other carnivora, of which the suborder Caniformia or Feliformia diverge. They likely looked like martins and weasel, with some living in the trees and others living on the ground. Maicids are the basics for all modern carnivores and likely preyed on anything smaller than they were. As these maicids spread, they began to specialize in their ecological niches. In Africa, where feline developed, the abundance of meat and herd animals likely allowed them to evolve into the super predators that we know as lion and leopard. In North America and Europe, the need for more diverse diets led to more omnivorous animals, like what we see with the bears, dogs and otters. Thanks for watching this video. If you find it helpful, make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button and turn on the notification.